Welcome to r/Bestof Redditor updates, where OP might legitimately be going crazy. Our next Reddit post is from What's Happening. Really weird things are happening to me, a 22-year-old woman. I'm not sure if it's an elaborate prank or if I'm seriously mentally ill. I don't even know where to start. My mind is so jumbled. I guess it started 2 weeks ago at work. I work in a factory, but I don't do the labor. I'm more of a spreadsheet maker, book balancer, secretary type thing. It's really informal, but it's my uncle's company and I needed a job. Yada yada, good pay. I was sitting at my desk with nothing to do, and I hear my boss, not my uncle, just another coworker and a friend of his, say, "Phil sighs" as he looks at the weather. I look up like, huh? And my coworker looks at me like, huh? He didn't say anything. I was like, that's weird, but oh well, anyways. And then the next day I was talking to some coworkers on the floor asking them work stuff, and one of them called me a B word, but when I called him out, him and everyone else looked at me like I was insane. I apologized and we all laughed it off. The factory is loud, right? People mishear things all the time. Except I was at Walmart and one of the workers there was putting away stock, and I swear to God, he looked straight at me and said, "The chicken was just killed." But I asked him what he meant, and I felt so bad because he looked so confused and like I was crazy. He hadn't even opened his mouth, apparently. Stuff like this has been happening so much. My friend even pulled me aside to ask if I was feeling okay. Small things are happening too. My boyfriend says he's making salmon for dinner. I hear him preparing salmon. I smell salmon. Then he brings it out and it's lasagna. I asked him where the salmon was and he was like, "What?" I said lasagna tonight and brushed it off like I'm being silly. I could have sworn this one shirt I owned was green, not teal. Stuff is changing and people are saying stuff, but they're not. People are narrating their lives sometimes. There's no way my friends could be pranking me, not when random people on the street are doing this too. I'm scared. I don't want to be thrown in a mental hospital. I'm not trying to offend mentally ill people. I'm so scared. I feel like my mind is slowly melting. Then, 5 days later, OP posted an update. So my boyfriend found the post, and we talked for a long time, and finally he said that he was taking me to the emergency room. I didn't want to go. I just wanted to wait for my appointment. Not because I didn't think that it was serious, but because I had no clue how to explain what was happening to the doctors and nurses, especially for it to warrant an emergency visit. So we went, and my boyfriend was very understanding. Just asked me how much I remembered from the past couple of days. Stuff he said and stuff I'd apparently heard. We were both scared. I went to the emergency room, which was very slow. I live in a small town, but we have a giant hospital for some reason. There was just one father and a sick child. I went in and basically had to explain what was happening, and honestly, the nurses were like, "What the hell? This lady's crazy." But when I saw a doctor, he took me very, very seriously. It was nice. He wrote down basically everything I said. I got some x-rays and they asked me questions. You know, the whole spiel. Anyway, the point of this update was to tell you guys that I have a tumor. That's really scary writing out, but I have a tumor in my brain. It hasn't sunken in yet that tomorrow my brain is going to be under the knife. I'm scared to miss work, but my boss was more than understanding. He sort of looked at me like I was insane when I asked how long I should be out of work. I don't know, I need to pay rent. We'll figure it out. Then, 10 years later, OP posted an update. This was so long ago. It's kind of cringe seeing how I wrote, but I'll give myself some flack because I was young and going through a terrible time. My boyfriend didn't last long. He bailed when he found out how long my recovery would be and what it entailed. I moved back in with my family, who are all nurses and caregivers, so it was really the smoothest recovery I could have had. I did years of therapy, both physical and mental. I did eventually end up losing my factory job, but that honestly wasn't their fault. Admittedly, I no-showed to work a lot and was spiraling for a few years, but I eventually landed on my feet. Found my dream man, a lumberjack type. Sorry for being a Canadian stereotype. And his mother had gone through almost the same thing that I did when she was younger, so we really bonded over that. I won't say that I'm having a perfect time. Life is life. I'm child-free, have a job that I tolerate, and I have money to spend on my friends and family, and I'm generally very happy. I keep off social media because I already survived a brain tumor. I'm not looking for more. And for Americans who are going to ask about the price, yes, it was free. Well, we can't be too harsh on the boyfriend for bailing on OP, considering it was the boyfriend who convinced OP to go to the hospital in the first place and possibly saved her life. The doctors did the majority of the life-saving, let's be honest. But he deserves some credit here. I'm guessing this was potentially an extremely dangerous condition, considering OP got surgery the very next day. Our next Reddit post is from Brokenhearted. I'm a 26-year-old guy, and I've been with my fiancé, who's 25, for 4 years. We've been engaged since last year and are actively planning the wedding. Last month, we moved to a new city across the country because my fiancé got an amazing job offer. I wasn't happy about it since I had to quit my job and all our family and friends were in the city that we left. I was kind of a jerk during the moving process, but I've come around since getting here. My fiancé keeps talking about this guy, late 20s maybe, that she worked with at her new job, and it made me uneasy. I went to a few after-work events where he showed up, and he seemed like a total butthole. Very full of himself, artistic type. I didn't like the way he interacted with my fiancé, and we would occasionally fight about it. Tuesday night, she got home really late, sat me down, and broke up with me. She said she felt an immediate bond with this coworker that's stronger than anything she's ever felt before. This from the woman who, just a few months ago, I held in my arms while watching the stars as she told me she's never felt more at peace than when she's beside me. I laid awake on the couch all night feeling like I was continually being punched in the stomach. I didn't fall asleep until 3 p.m. yesterday and stayed asleep until this morning when she woke me up. Basically, she's having this butthole over for Valentine's Day and demanded that she get the apartment to herself. Between the move, all the deposits that we've been putting for wedding stuff, and not having a job since we moved out here, I have literally no money for a hotel or anything else. We got into a big fight because I called her out and I said she knew that I had nowhere else to go. She said that's not her problem. She's done solving my problems for me. What? And that I needed to fix this one on my own. I guess his roommate is having a date over, so my fiancé offered our place for her date with this butthole. She says this is happening no matter what I say. So yeah, what am I supposed to do? Then OP posted an update. I appreciate everyone telling me to stand my ground. I told my fiancé I wouldn't leave the apartment, but I don't think it's a threat that I can carry through with. I'll be emotionally devastated if I have to watch the woman I love and care for more than anyone else date someone right in front of me in my own home. Then, 1 year later, OP posted an update. I've spent the last year working very hard to improve myself. Now that it's Valentine's Day again, I was thinking about what a dark place I was in last year. I didn't have the strength to post an update back then, but now that I've had some time to heal, I wanted to let everyone know how I'm doing. Part of the reason I didn't update afterwards was because I was extremely embarrassed with how things turned out. It's only because of some intense therapy that I'm able to be honest and okay with telling this story. Basically, I decided to make one last big attempt at winning her back. Right after we got engaged, my ex had a close relative succumb to a long-time illness. This relative was very happy that she lived long enough to see us get engaged. When my ex was a child, this relative had given my ex a charm that she wore all the time. A few months after the relative died, my ex lost the charm, and it was like the relative died a second time. As we packed up the apartment to move to the new city, I found the charm. Rather than give it back immediately, I decided that I would keep it in a safe place and surprise my ex with it at our wedding. I thought that it would be a meaningful way to include this relative in a moment where she would be deeply missed. Somehow, I got it in my head that if I showed her the charm on Valentine's Day, she'd remember everything we shared and that I could cut through whatever fog she was caught up in. I was under the impression that my ex would come home after work by herself to get the place ready for her date. I was planning to use this alone time to give her the charm and either win her back or lose decisively and leave before her date showed up. But instead, she showed up with the butthole from her job. This threw me for a loop big time, and it was incredibly awkward. He was patronizing. She became livid that I stole her charm. I struggled to articulate myself. It was the most embarrassed I've ever been. I got out of there and literally walked around all night until it got so cold that I couldn't stand it anymore. I went back to the apartment building around 4 a.m., and in what was a personal low point, I fell asleep in the hallway outside of our apartment. But that was the low point. There have been high points since then. I was able to move back to my hometown, and my old employer gave me my old job back. I even met someone else, and we dated for a while. We just broke up, though. It sucks to be alone again on Valentine's Day, but I've learned it's okay to be sad every once in a while. And compared to last year, this year is practically a celebration. Therapy gave me a wonderful perspective on life and some great coping skills for when times get difficult. As for my ex, I heard she married the butthole guy from work. Her sister would text me occasionally, and apparently her family hates the guy. Whatever, it's not my problem anymore. Lastly, I want to thank everyone on Reddit, sincerely. People offered to buy me a ticket home, other people offered to hang out with me if we happened to be in the same city. Some people even offered just to Skype with me so I could have someone to talk with. Even though I didn't respond, your messages meant so much to me. Thank you. Man, I don't think you could waterboard this information out of me. OP slept in front of their door like a sad, lost puppy while he was getting cucked in the main room. I'm not trying to pile on the criticism on this guy. I'm just saying, man, talk about a low point. It takes guts to post this online. I'm glad things are looking up, though, which I guess would have to be because how could things possibly get worse? Well, I guess if you got a brain tumor immediately afterwards. Our next Reddit post is from r/relationship advice. What do I, a 45-year-old woman, say to my boyfriend, a 44-year-old guy, who doesn't seem to realize that he's just broken up with me? I've been dating my boyfriend for about a year. When I met him, he had separated from his wife, and they were going through a divorce, 8 months after separation. I don't usually date men who are recently separated, but we just clicked. One thing I've asked from the beginning is whether or not he wants to have more kids, because I'm child-free for medical reasons. He's always said that he wasn't bothered either way. The relationship with his children is very strained, and they don't like going to see him. Now the divorce is complete. I've warned him that he'll spiral, having had friends go through the same thing, which is usually why I don't date men in this period. But he was adamant that he was going to be fine. He isn't. He's totally spiraling. I've suggested that he go back to therapy, but he doesn't want to. I've said not to just have these thoughts and feelings swirling around in his head and to talk if he needs to. He started talking to me about his feelings, and one of them is that he wants to have more kids. Now, he said this in a stream of consciousness in a voice note. Meanwhile, I'm on the waiting list for a hysterectomy. For those who don't know, hysterectomy is the removal of one's uterus. He's still texting me as normal. How do I confront this? He doesn't really have anyone else to talk to. However, our relationship is basically over in my head now. Then, 2 or 3 weeks later, OP posted an update. For clarification, his kids were happy to see him when we met, but as the divorce became more acrimonious, they started to say things that, in my mind, children wouldn't typically say. If he had said anything about his children not wanting to see him when we first started dating, that would have been a red flag for me. We met up, and I asked him if he was aware that he said he thinks he wants to have more kids. He said, yes, it's a possibility. I said, you're aware that I'm on the waiting list for a hysterectomy? He said, yes. I said, so you're aware that this essentially means that we're over? He said, it doesn't have to mean that. We can continue to see each other until I make up my mind. People, I nearly fell off my chair. I stared at him and realized that he actually never knew me at all. Anyone who knows me knows that I would never put up with this foolishness. I actually laughed and said, you want me to continue to see you while you decide whether or not you want to have kids? And then, if you do, I should just meekly walk away? Does that sound like it's fair? He said no, but he loves being with me and doesn't want to lose me. I told him I was lost the minute he told me he might want more kids. I said I appreciate him telling me the truth, but the consequence of that means that we're over. I told him what I would have told a friend. Sort out your relationship with the children you have before making new ones, and I gave him a book on the subject. I left and cried. I'm gonna miss him a lot. He's been texting, but I may block him soon. I could see this kind of wishy-washy behavior out of a guy who's, 26, 27 maybe, but 44? Doesn't know what he wants in life? Isn't sure if he wants to have more kids at 44? This guy sounds like a straight doofus. And even if everyone in this story was a lot younger, 20 years younger, ages 24 and 25 in this situation, why would you want to have kids with someone who admitted that they don't have a good relationship with the kids they already have? God, people are so dumb. That was r/Best of Redditor updates. And if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.